Jarvis, of course, we've got a question of the day today, and the next interview deals directly with that. But we want you to interact with us and tell us what you think. Should entrepreneurship become a core subject in South Africa's schools? That's the question we want you to answer. Now, the Vuyo's brand, a fast food restaurant serving food with a distinctly South African flair, was built after Miles Kubeka watched a beer advert that charted the global success of an imaginary Boerewors roll vendor called Vuyo, who at the time was said to be a big dreamer. Now today, Miles Kubeka is the owner of Vuyo's, an innovative, opportunity-grabbing entrepreneur, says it's important building a business for the long term. Now, already a successful entrepreneur, having co-founded and managed an IT services company, Kubeka saw an opportunity to piggyback on the fictional Vuyo brand. He's with us in studio this morning to answer the question and talk a little bit wider about entrepreneurship. Very good morning to you, Miles. Thanks for joining us.
Morning, Evan.
It's such an interesting story. I think we all saw the ad campaign, Vuyo, the big dreamer. Tell us the journey you've been on with this, and also some of the reaction you must have had.
I saw the ad like everybody else, and it was during a period of time. And every time I heard that old granny going, "Oh boy, you're such a big dreamer," I thought to myself, "There's some serious brand equity there." Yeah. And I promptly trademarked it, and since then I've become Vuyo effectively. And it's been interesting that even my own mother now calls me Vuyo.
That's very interesting. Have you had any negative reaction for jumping on this brand?
No, actually quite the opposite. It's been phenomenal. I mean, the other day we were doing an outdoor event. These two blonde girls run up to me and they go, "Are you Vuyo?" I go, "Yeah." And they say, "Would you autograph our boobs?" I was like, "Yeah, rock star." So it's been fun.
That's for you. You finally arrived when that happens, yes. Miles. But now I want to get a little bit serious, because we ask a question, and you're one of those most qualified to answer this question, because you're a self-made man. Entrepreneurship. When we speak to every economist here throughout the year, last year, this year, even this morning, we talk about entrepreneurship, and they say, yes, this is the thing that will lift us out of this quagmire of economic difficulty. Now, I want to ask you, should we teach entrepreneurship in our schools from an early age, or are entrepreneurs, are they born?
I think they can certainly be nurtured. I think there's two kinds of entrepreneurs, and I mean it's a wide scale. I do certainly think it should be taught at school from an early age, because even at tertiary, I think if you go study medicine or law or whatever degree, some people may start their own businesses. They may start their own practices. Yeah. And most people don't do that because they are fearful. They don't think they have the right knowledge or skill set to do so. Yeah. So I think, to be even just a business person, not necessarily an entrepreneur, you do need some entrepreneurial skills or learning. So I certainly think so. But I also think there's a lot of people who can do it without any nurturing, it's innately in them. They can see an opportunity. I mean, I started a business from a TV advert. And in fact, we're the only ones in the world who've done that. So, sometimes it's just recognizing opportunity and taking advantage of it.
We see some lovely pictures of you now on screen there.
My
Tell us about where the business is now, and what do you reckon the outlook will be for what will be a tough year, 2016 in South Africa?
Yeah, in fact, it was a tough 2015 as well, to be honest with you. But I think we had an amazing time of relooking at our growth strategy. We've just opened a new restaurant on Velagazi Street in Soweto. So I'm quite excited about that. It's in a hub of tourism, two Nobel Peace Prize winners in the same street, and we're right there. And I think it's giving us some awesome street cred as well. So I'm very bullish and optimistic about 2016.
In South Africa, there are always many challenges that entrepreneurs face, from banking costs to high data costs and so forth. It almost seems as if there's so many stumbling blocks for a young person to become a successful entrepreneur. Have you come across that kind of difficulty, and how do you deal with that?
Look, I'll be honest with you. Entrepreneurship is not for sissies. It's difficult. And in fact, I never thought it would be easy, but I certainly didn't think it would be this difficult either. And my learning is that when you go in knowing it's going to be difficult, you're more likely to be sustainable and succeed, because most people, I think, get into it not knowing how difficult it would be. And therefore, once the difficulty sets in, they're quickly to say, well, maybe I'm not cut out for this.
Yeah.
But had you known that it was going to be difficult, you're more likely to go through with the hard times.
Funding is always a barrier that young people say, oh, we don't have access to funding, we can't start a business and so forth. How did you overcome this, and is it that big an obstacle?
Yes and no. I think, I believe you got to start small, no matter how big, and I'm a big dreamer, right? So, but whatever dream you have, you got to distill it into the next step. So for me, I started at a food market, at a local Fourways farmers market, selling the boerewors out of a trestle table with a grill. Yeah. That costs 600 rands a weekend to do. So is it such a high barrier to entry? No. Yeah. I think most of people put these barriers on themselves and then make this thing bigger than it is. But the truth is, you just got to start. You have to start somewhere. And what I realized, and I've also said this a number of times, is that my mother said it best. When you're stuck on the side of the road, no one stops to help you push. When you're stuck on the side of the road and you get out of your own car and you start pushing, you'd be surprised as to how many people come out and help you. And that's what happens with entrepreneurship. Start small, and then other people, when they've seen what you can do, they come in to assist you go forward. And that's been the story of my journey. That's
fantastic. You talk about building a business for the long term.
Yeah.
What do you mean with that, and why is that so important?
It's hugely important. For me, it's like, a Sipho or a Temba, they don't have any black entrepreneurs to look up to. Guys who started from ground zero with nothing, who built a product where a product didn't exist, right? Almost always, you get the usual stuff where guys build business out of natural resources and stuff. But, we need to create a culture of where a Temba can see that you can build a product from nothing and grow it into a sustainable business locally and ultimately globally. And what that means is that once they see that it's happening and there's rock stars of entrepreneurship that look like them, what happens also is that in that ecosystem, once I've made it and I'm a real big dreamer, I can use some of the fundings that I've amassed over the time to support those businesses. Yeah. And as an entrepreneur, I'm more likely to see an entrepreneur and fund the jockey more than the business itself, unlike a bank. Because I know what it takes. Yeah. And I think that's important in that ecosystem. And that's why sustainable entrepreneurship businesses are important.
Well, Vuyo, Miles, actually. Miles Kubeka, you've done a fantastic job with a big dream. Thanks for joining us today. And I think it's a wonderful concept that you brought to us. So next time you watch a TV ad, think at how you can turn it into business. Miles Kubeka is the founder of Vuyo's. They make South African food, or food with this distinctly South African flair.